It is an extraordinary privilege and honour to stand before you today here in Kuala Lumpur as Australia's Foreign Minister. And I doubt my football would have imagined it. My grandmother's name was Madam Lai Mung Shin. She was of Hakka descent. Grandfather was Cantonese. And if I have an aside here, Wikipedia has an ongoing argument whether that makes me Hakka or Cantonese. I just leave it to them. When the war came to Malaysia, Popo and the rest of the family were in Sandakan. Most of our family died during that war. And Popo was left alone to care for her children and the rest of the family in the hardest of circumstances. She was barely literate. She was loving and humble and the strongest person I have ever known. And any time things feel hard, I think of her and what she had to endure. Her determination to survive, to save herself and her family, is something from which I and all of our family draw strength every day. Her son, Francis Wong, was a bright student who worked hard, and his efforts earned him a Colombo Plan scholarship to study architecture at the University of Adelaide. The opportunity to study was the opportunity that defined his life and mine. It meant he could climb out of the poverty he experienced as a child. It meant doors opened that would otherwise have been jammed firmly shut. It meant he could go to Australia, a very different Australia from what we know today. And it meant a charming young Malaysian man could meet a bold young Australian woman. When we wrote that line, I thought how pleased Dad would be to be described as charming. They married and moved back to Kota Kinabalu, where I was born and spent the first 8 years of my life. And Dad brought back with him knowledge and skills, and he became a notable figure in Kota Kinabalu, designing prominent civic buildings, although sadly they've replaced many of them. The value of that education never left him. He has always told me they can take everything away from you, but they cannot take your education. So my family history will be on my mind today when I go back to KK. But more than the past, I'm focused on the future. And I say this to you, Australians know our future lies in the region we share with Malaysia. And it tells you something about modern Australia, that I am here speaking to you today as Australia's Foreign Minister. I said earlier, Australia is a very different place to the country in which my father arrived around 60 years ago. My heritage is one of the 270 ancestries now represented in Australia. Half of our population was born overseas or has a parent born overseas. And we will be reflecting this rich character back to the world, so the world can see itself in our country, because we share common ground. The time has come for Australia's full story to be told, our modern diversity and the rich heritage of our First Nations peoples. And as we look to the future, I hope Australia's story will be part of your story. Thank you very much.